Good evening. Welcome to DJ's True Crime and Mysteries. Lock your doors, lock your windows, turn the lights down, get yourself something strong to drink, because tonight's story, well, it's a doozy. A dark family secret that in the end will shock you beyond belief with this twisted ending. The patrol officer noticed the lights first. Every window in the house blazed like someone was hosting a party. Kitchen, the living room, all the upstairs bedrooms, even the laundry room, all the lights were on at 3:12 a.m. But you see, the rest of the neighborhood was entirely silent. There were no cars up and down the road. Nobody was playing music, and nobody was talking loud enough to be heard. Just the hum of electricity spilling onto the street. And the front door, well, it stood open exactly 8 inches, as if someone had tried to leave quietly and maybe changed their mind halfway through. The officer knocked once. No reply. So he pushed the door open wider. Inside, he saw the television played a cooking show to an empty couch. A glass of melted ice sweated into a ring on the coffee table. A purse lay on the floor beside a single high heel. And in the hallway, just visible from the doorway, a phone vibrated across the hardwood again and again. And the caller ID, well, it said, Mom. The officer stepped farther inside. Then he saw the staircase, and he immediately stopped moving, because halfway up the steps, there was blood, not splattered and not wiped. Just one perfect handprint, pressed flat against the wall as though someone had paused there, deciding whether to keep going or not. Now, 3 days earlier, Briarwood, Florida, was the kind of subdivision designed to prevent tragedy. Wide sidewalks, HOA rules about trash cans, retired couples watering lawns at dawn, teenagers who complained there was nothing to do. Crime here meant unlocked cars and missing Amazon packages, which is why everyone noticed when the Myers family moved in. They were interesting, to say the least. Daniel Myers worked remotely, some kind of logistics analyst no one quite understood. But he was quiet, he was polite, and he was always home, the type who waved, never lingered in conversation. Now, Caroline Myers was just the opposite. She was warm, she was a socialite, immediate friends with everyone. And within 2 weeks, she knew everyone's dog's names and half the neighborhood's secrets. And then there was their daughter, Emma, age 17. She didn't wave, she didn't smile, didn't dislike people either. She only observed them. Long enough that neighbors began feeling studied instead of greeted. People joked she'd be a detective someday. And they would remember saying that. The Myers house followed patterns. Every light was off by 11:30. The garage, they closed it at 10:45. Caroline jogged every morning at 6:20 exactly. And Daniel checked mail at 5:05 exactly. Emma walked to the bus stop, but she never rode the bus. she was always picked up by someone before it arrived. No one knew who, and no one asked. Suburbs respect silence more than privacy. At 7:42 on a Thursday evening, neighbor Linda Perez saw Caroline in the driveway. They chatted about nothing. The HOA repainting mailboxes, the humidity, and someone's missing cat. Normal talk. Except Linda later told police something small felt wrong. Caroline kept glancing towards her front door. Not inside the house, but at the handle, as if she expected it to open. And it never did. And at 7:51 p.m., Linda went back inside. At 7:56 p.m., Caroline texted her husband, "Are you almost home?" He replied, "I've been home. I'm upstairs working." And Caroline never responded. On Friday morning, Caroline did not go jogging, and the garage stayed closed. Daniel's car remained in the driveway. And at 9:30 a.m., a delivery driver rang the bell and left a package. At 11 a.m., package was still there. At 1:14 p.m., Emma's school called, and she had not attended first period. At 3:12 a.m. on Saturday, the police finally entered the house. Inside the house, they noticed there was no forced entry, no overturned furniture, no broken glass. Everything suggested interruption, but not violence. The purse on the floor contained wallet, ID, cash, and credit cards. The kitchen sink held a rinsed knife in the drying rack. Bedrooms were made, but one thing disturbed investigators immediately. No one had taken their phones. All 3 phones were found inside the house. Now, Daniel's phone, upstairs office desk, Caroline's hallway floor near the stairs, Emma's was charging beside her bed. People running from danger take their phones. People expecting to come back leave them. Now, the handprint on the staircase, it belonged to Caroline, but the blood was minimal, not enough for a serious injury. Almost as if she cut her palm and then continued moving. And there were no drag marks. There was no body, no signs of cleaning, which meant one thing investigators hate. Whatever happened did not happen in panic. It happened in decision. Police separated neighbors for timeline verification. Everyone agreed on Thursday night, except one detail. At 9:18 p.m., a security camera across the street captured the Myers front door opening, and a person stepped out. Then they paused, and then they went back inside. Police first assumed it was Daniel. Daniel insisted, "I never went downstairs after 8:30. And his work computer confirmed continuous activity, keystrokes, mouse movement, document edits. So that means someone else used the door. But Caroline's phone never left the house. Emma's never left her bedroom, which left investigators asking a question that would define this case. If no one left, why did someone hesitate at the door? Between 8:52 p.m. and 9:47 p.m., Every single device in the house lost Wi-Fi connection. Router logs showed manual shutdown. No power outage, not a provider issue. Someone inside the house disconnected the network deliberately. Afterward, they turned it back on. Nothing else in the home suggested chaos, just control. Caroline's phone revealed an outgoing call at 9:03 p.m. to her own voicemail. 27 seconds long, and the recording contained only breathing and just one sentence. I didn't know you knew. Then silence. By sunrise, the Myers home was no longer a home. It was a contained environment. Crime scene tape cut the driveway in half. Patrol units idled along the curb, and neighbors watched from behind curtains, pretending not to watch. Detectives didn't rush. Scenes like this weren't about speed. They were about pattern recognition. And this house had patterns everywhere. The Myers family lived efficiently, which meant digitally. Doorbell camera, thermostat logs, smart lights, security system, voice assistant, 3 laptops, 2 tablets, 3 phones, and a vehicle GPS. Most homicides rely on witness statements. Modern ones rely on metadata. And metadata rarely lies, just refuses to explain itself. Thursday night timeline, and this is preliminary. At 8:41 p.m., front door unlocked from the inside. 8:52 p.m., the Wi-Fi manually disabled. At 9:03 p.m., Caroline called her voicemail. At 9:18 a.m. or p.m., front door opens briefly by an unidentified person. 9:27 p.m., upstairs motion sensor triggers in the hallway. At 9:31 p.m., the thermostat was lowered by 6 degrees. And at 9:47 p.m., the Wi-Fi was restored. At 10:12 p.m., all interior lights turned on simultaneously. And after that, nothing. No movement, no exits, no entries. The house did not go quiet. It went staged. Daniel Myers looked exactly like a man who hadn't slept but also hadn't cried. He answered quickly, precisely, and without embellishment, the way analytical personalities do when they believe facts protect them. This is what he claimed. He worked upstairs from 7:30 to midnight. He never heard an argument, he never heard footsteps, and he never left his office. He thought Caroline and Emma went to bed early. Detectives asked why all the lights came on at 10:12 p.m. Daniel frowned. Caroline hated dark houses. Maybe she did it. Except Caroline's phone had not been touched after 9:03 p.m. And a reminder, all their lights was operated by smart devices. So in order for her to turn all the lights on, she would have had to use her phone, and she hadn't. Emma was interviewed at her aunt's house. She showed emotion, but not panic, and not fear. More like irritation at being misunderstood. She insisted she was in her room all night doing homework and listening to music. Her phone activity confirmed continuous screen time. But one detective noticed something strange. Her music app played the same 4-minute song on repeat for over an hour. People studying rarely loop one song 50 times. People masking sound do. And the doorbell camera. The camera faced outward. Standard suburban paranoia. But reflections matter. And at 9:18 p.m., when the door opened, detectives enhanced the glass storm door reflection. The figure stepping outside wasn't leaving. They were looking behind them into the house. And the body posture wasn't cautious. It was hesitant, as if waiting for permission. Their height was approximately 5'6", 5'8". Daniel stood at 6'1", Caroline 5'5", and Emma 5'4". Close enough to all three to accuse none of them. The rinsed knife became important once luminol was used. Luminol is a spray that forensic scientists spray to illuminate blood that has been cleaned up. The blade showed microscopic trace blood. Not enough to see, but enough to test. Preliminary result, it's human. But the house had no body, which created a problem. Investigators quietly dread. A cleaned weapon without a victim usually means the victim left alive or left completely. Oh, you know the neighbors are going to start talking. Suburbs cannot resist gossip until the police tape arrives. Then memory improves dramatically. A teen across the street mentioned seeing someone in the upstairs window around 10:30 p.m. Not moving, but just standing, watching the street for almost 20 minutes. He assumed it was Daniel, and Daniel insisted he never left the office. The office window faced the backyard. In the garage, there was no blood. There was no disturbance. But the car's onboard computer revealed ignition at 9:34 p.m. for 46 seconds. The engine never shifted into drive. Someone started the vehicle and then turned it off, testing something or timing something. Investigators visited Emma's high school. Attendance office noted she'd been leaving campus several days a week before the disappearance, picked up by a vehicle not registered to family. And security footage showed a gray sedan. License plate unreadable, but detectives didn't focus on the car. They focused on Emma's face getting into it. Not excited at all, but not scared. Resolved. Linda Perez revealed one more detail she'd originally dismissed. During Thursday's driveway conversation, Caroline asked a strange question. Have you ever realized you don't really know who lives in your own house? Linda laughed at the time, but she don't now. Technicians reconstructed deleted browsing history from Daniel's computer. There was no violent content. He was not having an affair. But instead, he looked up property records, missing person cases, time of death estimation studies, and how long blood smell lingers indoors. Daniel said he wrote crime fiction in his spare time. But no manuscripts existed. The voicemail, cleaned up audio, Forensic audio removed background noise from Caroline's message. Breathing, fabric movement, a faint clicking sound, then clearer than before. I didn't know you knew. Then a whisper, almost too soft. Not here. Investigators replay it repeatedly because she wasn't talking to the caller. She was talking to someone in the room. So the first theory that police began forming was a simple explanation. Domestic confrontation, injury, body removal, and staging. Except one fact didn't fit. There was no vehicle that left the driveway after 8:41 p.m. No door opened after 9:18. No garage opened, no one exited the house, but yet someone had bled. And that meant one possibility remained. The event the house recorded was not the crime. It was the aftermath. Investigators stopped asking what happened. They started asking who the house was arranged for, because staged scenes don't hide crimes, they deliver messages. So they rebuilt Thursday. Detectives recreated the timeline, minute by minute inside the empty house, and at 8:52 p.m., the Wi-Fi shut off, eliminating remote cameras. 9:03, Caroline records the voicemail. She is alive, speaking to someone that is physically present. 9:18, someone opens the front door and then hesitates. 9:27 p.m., upstairs motion triggers. At 9:31, the thermostat was lowered, slowing decomp. 9:34, car started but never moved. And at 9:47, the Wi-Fi was restored, and at 10:12, lights in the entire house turned fully on. Everything after 9:03 wasn't panic, it was nothing but procedure. The handprint on the wall bothered the forensic team, not because of the blood amount, but the angle. Caroline's palm was pressed flat at shoulder height, but the smear showed downward transfer, meaning her hand was already bloody when she placed it there. She didn't bleed there. She walked there intentionally and stopped halfway upstairs, not collapsing, not slipping, pausing, almost like she's trying to mark a spot. Forensics finally processed Emma's bedroom thoroughly, not just visually. And inside the trash can, there were 6 tissues, 1 cut bandage wrapper, and a grocery receipt time-stamped 6:02 p.m. The purchase? Hydrogen peroxide, gauze, sports tape, and trash bags. Emma said she never left school that day, but school cameras showed she did at 5:18 p.m. and returned at 6:40 p.m. But no gray sedan was involved. She walked. Smart speakers constantly buffer short audio loops, waiting for wake words. Most overwrite every few seconds, but outages interrupt overwrite cycles. The 8:52 Wi-Fi shutdown preserved fragments. Technicians recovered 19 seconds. Footsteps, a chair scraping the floor. Caroline, we are not doing this tonight. Unknown voice, you already did. Caroline, but she's a child. Unknown voice says she ain't no more. Then a loud impact, and then silence. So detectives interviewed Daniel twice, and they changed their approach. Not accusation, but clarification. They asked why he never went downstairs after hearing a loud impact. He blinked. I didn't hear one. They played the recovered audio, but his face never changed. But he asked a precise question. Exactly what time was that recorded? 9:02 p.m. Exactly 1 minute before Caroline's voicemail. His typing activity never stopped, which meant one of two things. Either he ignored a fight happening directly below him, or the fight was not where it sounded. Okay, let's transfer to the basement. Myers' house technically had no basement, and Florida homes rarely do. But in the garage behind the shelving, detectives found a narrow interior access panel, more of a utility crawl space than a basement. Inside, there was a concrete floor, standing height center beam, plastic storage bins, and an awful-to-God smell. It wasn't decomp. It was cleaning chemicals. Luminol revealed diluted blood pooling toward a floor drain. Much more blood than the staircase. The staircase wasn't the violence. It was the message. So what all was missing? Well, one storage bin had been emptied recently. The dust outline was still visible. Neighbors later recalled Daniel moving heavy containers into the house during move-in day, but never removing any. No trash pickup showed unusual weight. No large packages shipped. No digging in yard, which left detectives with a logistical paradox. A large volume blood loss event, but there was no body, no transport, and no exit. So they checked Emma's search history, and it was recovered from a school laptop. How long until someone is legally missing? Self-defense laws in Florida, family member. Can police charge without a body? But mixed in among them, average blood volume teen versus adult, and does bleach remove DNA completely? She claimed curiosity after watching documentaries. Investigators didn't argue. They just kept cataloging. Crime scene reconstruction tested the 46-second engine start. With garage closed, carbon monoxide levels rose rapidly inside the crawl space vent connected to HVAC return. In under 4 minutes, the air downstairs would become incapacitating. But the engine ran less than 1 minute, not enough to kill, enough to move someone already unconscious, though. The phone that moved, Caroline's phone, found in hallway, registered 38 steps after the voicemail. From the kitchen to the stairs, halfway up, stop. Exactly where the handprint sat. She walked after her injury, deliberately, toward bedrooms, toward Emma. And up until now, police ask, who attacked Caroline? Now they asked, why did Caroline go upstairs after she was attacked? Because victims run toward exits, not deeper into the house. Unless the threat isn't the attacker. Unless the threat is what happens next. And here's a detail that everyone missed. During the initial sweep, officers noted all interior lights turned on at 10:12 p.m. But one bulb upstairs had burned out weeks earlier, confirmed by neighbors. Yet at 10:12, electricity flowed to that fixture anyway. Someone flipped every switch in the house, even ones they knew wouldn't work, not for visibility, for certainty. Someone wanted no darkness anywhere. And investigators realized the person staging the scene wasn't hiding something from police. They were making sure someone inside the house could see. And by the fourth day, detectives stopped looking for an intruder because there wasn't one. Everything, every movement, every device change, every light originated from people already living inside the house. So investigators built the most logical narrative possible. A family argument must have escalated, and Caroline was injured in the crawl space. Someone panicked. They staged uncertainty. They removed the body later. But you see, logic had a flaw. No one had time to remove anything. Because from 8:41 p.m. to sunrise, neighbors, cameras, and patrol routes boxed the property in completely. No vehicles left and no one walked away. The body never exited the house, which meant either the body was still inside or no one died there. And detectives didn't like either answer. So was there a financial motive? Forensics shifted to motive reconstruction, the most reliable pressure point. Caroline did carry a life insurance policy recently increased to $750,000. And Daniel was the beneficiary. Classic, right? Always. Except he didn't know about it. The policy paperwork was completed online from Caroline's laptop 2 weeks prior. Witness field left blank. Medical exam waived. And one unusual addition. There was a second beneficiary, Emma, added for 10%. Police expected inheritance conflict. Instead, they found withdrawal records. Caroline had been quietly draining savings for months. Not large amounts, just enough not to alert Daniel. Transferred into a new account under her maiden name. Her balance, $19,000. Not escape money, but preparation money. Caroline also had some secret appointments. Her jogging route logs matched visits to one specific location, 3 mornings a week. A storage facility. Unit rented under cash payment. Inside, investigators found this. Old photos, school papers, birth certificates, and childhood drawings, all of them belonging to Emma, but dated years earlier than the family claimed that they had moved to Florida. The Myers family told neighbors they relocated 2 years ago. These items suggested something else. They relocated identities. Emma Myers had a legitimate birth certificate, but the hospital listed had closed 14 years before her supposed birth. State records showed the certificate was reissued. It was not an original. So detectives widened the search and found a missing persons report from another state filed 13 years earlier for a 6-year-old girl. Same first name, but a different last name. Case unsolved. Never connected until now. Daniel's role in any of this? So when confronted, Daniel didn't deny knowledge. He corrected details. We didn't take her. She was abandoned. Whoa. He claimed Caroline discovered the child alone outside an apartment complex while working out of state years ago. No one searched. No one came forward, so they freaking kept her. No adoption, no report. They just became her parents. Oh, totally illegal. But not murder. Still, it changed the case completely. Because now detectives understood Caroline's voicemail. I didn't know that you knew. Knew what? Her identity? Emma had accessed genealogy sites weeks before the incident, and DNA results processed 2 days prior to Thursday. She had biological relatives nearby. Investigators interviewed one, an aunt who never stopped searching. She showed them age-progressed photos. The resemblance wasn't approximate, it was freaking exact. Emma had discovered she wasn't even their daughter and never confronted police. She confronted freaking Caroline. So let's reconstruct the argument. Recovered audio now made sense. Caroline, she's a child. Unknown voice, she ain't no more. Detectives concluded Emma demanded the truth. Caroline resisted. A struggle occurred in the crawl space, and perhaps Caroline was hiding documents. An injury happened. Caroline walked upstairs after, lights turned on, scene staged. Daniel, protecting the family, removed the body after Emma went to sleep. It fit. Every officer agreed. Prosecutors began drafting charges. Except one investigator didn't, because one detail still violated physics. The temperature. The thermostat drop at 9:31 p.m. lowered the home 6 degrees. If preserving a body, it would slow decomp. But the crawl space vent, where most blood was found, received almost no airflow. Cooling the house wouldn't preserve anything there. However, it would preserve someone upstairs in a closed bedroom. Emma's phone showed continuous activity until 10:08 p.m. Then it stopped moving entirely. Not powered off, not dead, but just stationary. For 11 hours. Exactly the same orientation on the mattress. People sleep and shift dozens of times. Phones moved, but hers didn't. Not once. So the accepted theory that Caroline died downstairs, but the only person who never moved afterward was Emma. So what was the house really trying to tell them? The investigation officially pivoted on the 7th day, and not because of a confession, but because of math, arithmetic. The crawl space contained the largest volume of blood. Investigators assumed that it belonged to Caroline due to the handprint upstairs. The final DNA sequencing separated contributors. The primary source was Emma. The secondary trace transfer came from Caroline. Caroline wasn't the victim who bled there. She was the one who touched it. Which meant the accepted theory, it collapsed instantly. Caroline hadn't been attacked in a crawl space. She had found someone already injured there. So let's reconstruct the real timeline. 6:02 p.m., Emma buys medical supplies. Then she returns home, has a family normal activity going on, but at 8:52 p.m., the Wi-Fi shut off. At 9:02 p.m., confrontation captured, then Caroline's voicemail, and after 9:03, the staging had begun. But now detectives looked at it differently. Argument wasn't about Emma discovering the truth, it was about Caroline discovering something first. Investigators returned after noticing dust disturbance beneath a shelving rack. Under the plywood floor, a shallow maintenance cavity, and inside they found a backpack, disposable gloves, a prepaid phone, printed directions, and a photograph The photo showed the Myers house taken from across the street, dated 2 weeks before the incident, and on the back written in a marker, Thursday when he works late. Call history contained one repeated outgoing number, Emma's school, but not to the office, to a guidance counselor. Deleted messages were recovered. I know they aren't my parents, and I think they took me. I need proof before police. I'm going to get him to admit it. Emma wasn't planning to run. She was planning to confront and to record it. So what exactly happened in the crawl space? Investigators replayed the recovered audio again, now knowing Emma had turned Wi-Fi off to prevent cloud backups from alerting Daniel. The impact wasn't an attack. It was a fall. Inside the crawl space, detectives found a low steel support beam directly above the blood pool. Height 5'4", Emma's height. She had hidden there, waiting, and Caroline discovered her first, not Daniel. Forensic linguist isolated the unknown voice. It wasn't adult. It was Emma, her voice pitched lower under stress. The argument, Emma was accusing, Caroline panicking, Caroline insisting they saved her, Emma threatening to call the police. Emma stepped backwards, hit the beam, and collapsed. The bleeding was catastrophic. A severed scalp artery. Fast, disorienting, often survivable if treated immediately. Caroline tried, bandage wrapper, gauze, peroxide, but Emma lost consciousness. So why did Caroline go upstairs? The 38 recorded steps weren't escape. They were urgency. Caroline went to get Daniel. Halfway up, she realized something devastating. If police came, they would lose her forever. Kidnapping charges, prison. Emma returned to biological family. She hesitated. The handprint wasn't weakness, it was a damn decision. Caroline woke Daniel, and together they faced a harsh reality. Call 911, lose their daughter forever, or hide the truth and maybe still lose her. They carried Emma to her bedroom, lowered the thermostat to slow swelling, turned on all lights to monitor breathing, started the car briefly, trying to recall CPR instructions from memory videos they'd watched earlier. Timing, compressions. They never called an ambulance. And by 10:08 p.m., her phone stopped moving, and Emma died upstairs. Not murdered, but not saved. Everything afterward served one purpose: to make it look like she left alive. The door opening, the lights, the voicemail confusion. They wanted investigators chasing intruders long enough to decide what to do, but they couldn't move the body. They couldn't bury her. They couldn't report her, so they did the only thing left. Diver dogs eventually alerted to the attic insulation, and inside, carefully wrapped in thermal barrier, Emma had been placed above her own room. They couldn't let her go, and couldn't admit she was never legally theirs. And Daniel confessed first. Caroline never contradicted him. They weren't charged with murder. They were charged with failure to render aid, abuse of a corpse, and kidnapping from years earlier. And during the final interview, detectives asked Caroline why she left the voicemail. She answered quietly, "Because for 1 second, I almost called for help. And I wanted proof. I hesitated." Neighbors would always remember the lights, every bulb glowing through the night. They thought it meant something terrible had happened. In truth, it meant something way, way worse. Nothing violent happened at 9:02 p.m. Only two parents sitting beside a bed, waiting for a girl, finally learned who she was. and died before she could ever decide who she wanted to be. Wow, what a sad, sad story. All right, y'all, I'm DJ. Listen, I'm new at this storytelling. I'm doing the best I can. I've got the best equipment that I can afford at the moment. I hope you enjoy these. I will make mistakes. Try to overlook them. And hey, we'll see you the next time. God bless. Much love. Peace out.